What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of Not A24, the podcast that takes a look at movies outside of the A24 library, literally 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, Wait, what is this? Sorry, hold on. We might have to start this over.
Scrap it.
We're just gonna pick it up. God's power is within grasp as we ride our motorcycles. Beat the
You
shit out
cost
of
us like
clowns.
10 seconds, Ben. What the hell?
It's gonna happen. And begin the universe anew. This week we are talking about Akira.
Yes, a secret military project endangers Neo-Tokyo when it turns a biker gang member into a rampaging psychic psychopath who can only be stopped by a teenager, his gang of biker friends, and a group of psychics. This is week 5 now of our stint that we're doing right now with AI movies. So this is our 5th entry into that. I had never seen this movie. Had you seen Akira before this?
I've seen pieces, but I have not watched the whole movie. No.
Okay, so both of our first time seeing this as a whole movie, and you filled me in, and I was just like completely oblivious to the fact that last week we talked about Blade Runner, this week we're talking about Akira, and then next week we're doing a Lone Cub film, and those are 3 selections straight from Gareth Edwards that said directly influenced the creator. So we kind of fused AI with like things that have had a big impact on what the creator might be, so we can kind of prepare for that movie better. But we have 24 minutes and now less because you stumbled over the intro. I thought you were a seasoned podcast vet, dude.
No, I'm still a rookie.
So we've got just a little bit of time. Let's talk about this movie because I watched it last night and I watched the trailer, and of course it was like interesting because I was like, wow, this sounds great. Like, it looks pretty crazy. Even the trailer didn't prepare me for what this movie was going to be. 1988 anime classic. It's got a 4.3 average on Letterboxd. Like, pretty fucking good. That's a big deal. Directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, and it is an adaptation of his 1982 manga of the same name. I really liked this movie. What did you think of this movie, Ben?
It was not what I expected at all. I mean, just the whole like forming into this huge blob and just all this stuff. Like, I had no idea, just based on my limited clips I had seen and knowledge. I thought it was more of like a racing. I thought we were going to get like Speed Racer, but like in an anime.
Oh,
you know
sure.
I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I thought, like, all right, this is some like biker gang. And because, you know, as people can see on our clock countdown here, like everyone knows the bike. Like that's like a thing, you know,
the power slide. Like that was the thing. I was like, oh, sick. Like, I wonder when we're going to get to it in the 3rd act. And it was like in the 3rd minute where I was just like, oh, that's it. Oh, maybe we peaked early. I don't know.
They Rogue Nationed us. They gave us like the big move in the opening here. It's like, cool, we're just gonna get it out of the way. It's like, all right, cool, great. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had a good time with it. I really liked it quite a bit. It's just like I had no idea what I was getting. And then like, you know, sometimes the warnings come up of like what it's for, and it's like, oh, and there's like some nudity in it. I was like, really? Okay, like I don't know where this is gonna fit in, and obviously we see where it does. But yeah, it was just like, it was so interesting. I thought the storyline was pretty cool. It was, I think I prefer this. I mean, it's just a similar form of like mediums here. So there's nothing else. Like, it feels weird to compare them, but I do prefer this to Ghost in the Shell. I think I like this one a lot more. I had a good time with this one. But yeah, I thought like the artwork was insane. I thought it was like beautiful to watch, and just kind of like, just kind of a crazy story. But like I said, I thought we were getting some sort of Fast and Furious Speed Racer. Like, this is going to be all about the bike and stuff like that. And like, to an extent, there's a lot of bike stuff in it for sure. But the story just took a whole different spin on the universe. And like, you know, I thought the dude's name was Akira. Like, I had no idea. That wasn't even like the main guy's name. You know, I was like, oh shit. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I had a really good time with it though.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely like it better than Ghost in the Shell. You're right. 2 similar mediums telling very similar stories. This movie felt like the first like 40 minutes felt very different than like the back hour 20 to me. You get to a very certain point where the powers really start to take off, and Akira becomes like the momentum of the movie, and for the longest time, like for the first act. It's kind of just like this, almost like a MacGuffin, where it's just like talked about and thought about, and like what is its place in the world and all of these things. I love that this movie has, excuse me, I love that this movie has so many like huge themes that it like touches on. Obviously, like we get a freedom of the press moment, obviously government overreach, like this is Neo Tokyo, so things are done differently there, corporate greed when it comes to that kind of stuff, like a freedom revolution, religious rebirth, because we have all of these groups that are like cults for Akira and like what that represents and who that is and things like that, false messiahs and gods. Like it really does go on, and I think all of them are pretty clearly, although not always in depth, like pretty clearly explained and sought after, and I thought they worked really, really well. It didn't feel like anything was over the top, or I guess for Ghost in the Shell I felt pretty confused at sometimes of like, wow, there's a lot going on here. I did not feel that with this movie. I love the bikes. Felt very like Mad Max in the beginning of the movie, where it was just like, oh, sick. Like we're just running around just beating the shit out of people. This is kind of cool. Like this is pretty fun. I did feel like when we meet these aliens, and obviously from the beginning, like one of these little alien boys is with us. But when like we meet all of them kind of at the children's hospital, like quote unquote, wherever they keep them, it did feel a bit to me like Minority Report, like with precogs, and I really dug that. I thought that was pretty sweet. Obviously, this did it long before that did it, but I noticed a lot of similarities there. I like this movie a lot, and the animation is insane. We should do True Cinema Moments, because I'm really curious what you're going to pick from this, because this movie's kind of unhinged. Like the last 40 minutes are some insane visuals that I just like didn't know we were going to get at all. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm as we were watching this, I just kept thinking, because like you said, these three movies were picked because Gareth Edwards made a list of movies that kind of inspired the creator. Right. And the three that we chose off there were Blade Runner, Akira, and Lone Wolf and Cub, which I'm very excited to get to. That one looks a little straightforward, where someone kind of protecting a child, and through the trailers we can see that. Blade Runner, you kind of get, the neo, futuristic, whatever kind of thing, which has this as well. But I am curious, like, what influence this will have on the movie. The first thing I picked basically is, it's a lot of the artwork from that first 40 minutes. It is like all the motorcycle races, like specifically kind of like the light tracing of all the headlights and the tail lights and things like that. Cause it's just
so cool.
For now, I think nowadays we take it for granted with how they would do that. But back then it's just like they had to animate all that kind of stuff, and it's just so interesting to think of like the way in which they would do that. I think all of the artwork of the landscapes and like the buildings and things like that, I loved all that attention to detail for all these background scenes, and then also just like all the light traces and stuff for these bikes as they take off. I just thought it was such a cool feature to the story.
Okay, awesome. We are back from some slightly technical difficulties. I've been podcasting so long, I am a podcasting vet, Ben, that my cable just decided to give out in the middle of a recording. So fingers crossed it doesn't give out again. We'll see what happens. Okay, my first true cinema moment is I love all the stuff in the beginning. I love the bikes like you were mentioning. But for me, I think the first moment that I really like connected to was, I think his name is Ryu. That's like one of the guys kind of like working for this like secret government for Akira and those things, where him and his kind of doctor are walking along and they're having a conversation about Akira, and he says, maybe we weren't meant to have the power of a god. And then basically says like, we were left no choice. I think this movie has some really good dialogue when it comes to that kind of stuff, and like the forceful hand of the evolution of humans and the evolution of man, especially in a situation of like Neo Tokyo and living in the future and oppressive rule and all of these things. So for me, that is mine, which is very counterintuitive to such a visually stimulating movie to like go with. Like my first moment is like two people talking, but for me, that was where I was like, oh shit, like this is pretty deep, and this is pretty good actually.
No, I think that's a solid point. That was definitely the dialogue was like, oh, this movie's gonna be a lot deeper than I thought it was gonna be. You know, this is a lot different than just like bike racing. So yeah, that's a solid one. My second one is Tetsuo's panic attacks. There's a couple. I mean, the first one that he has on the street, I just thought it was so visually interesting that like his guts drop out from under him, or at least he thinks they do.
So
you know,
sick, yeah.
And we see him like trying to scoop them back up, even though there's nothing there. I thought that was cool. And then the big one that I really enjoyed the most was in the hospital, and all these like stuffed animals create these 3 huge stuffed animals in his room.
So scary, dude.
And I'm like, oh man, this is visually so cool. That is so freaky to actually have that happen. Like if that was happening in real life. So yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed those visuals quite a bit. Kind of like gave us an idea of what Tetsuo was going through, like with this, you know, this thing taking over his body and just like being out of his control completely. So yeah, just Tetsuo's panic attacks is what I'd go with for my second pick.
Well, that's a perfect segue into my next one, because it does involve Tetsuo, and it is when he essentially like the first time that he becomes the pseudo Akira, when he becomes like the Messiah and is going through the streets, and he is like introduced behind this like humongous flame, and the score is like pounding, and it's so intense, and he is like deemed as this very angelic figure with all the power come to save people, and the military starts shooting rockets at him, and the first time they shoot a rocket at him, it just like stops in front of him and explodes, and he just like keeps walking. And like there's so many moments like that where they did some really cool shit where it was just like, oh, that's really cool that you did that with your powers. Like that I really enjoyed. And I think most anytime where he was introduced like into a scene or into a battle or led into something where the score got really intense and loud and choral, I think that was really good. But specifically that one moment for me, the first time where he dons the red cape as well, was really sick.
And that's, I think, some of this stuff was like, oh, that's where the Matrix got this. Okay, got it. It's just like stopping the bullets in the middle of the air or whatever. I know there was that movie that James Gunn produced. Is it called Brightburn or something? Where the kids,
Brightburn,
like yeah. And that red cape reminded me a lot of that. You know, that same kind of look. So I thought that was interesting. This movie definitely has a lot of influence on so many other things, and I think it's one of the many reasons I was glad to finally see it. It was like, okay, cool. And obviously, I think one of our favorites that we saw recently in cinemas was the Akira slide in Nope. You know, when Kiki Palmer just like slides the bike like that, like, oh, it's so fucking cool. Yeah. I know even Jordan Peele was like, he was just stoked to be able to do that. You know, it's just like, yeah, that's like a real. It's like, oh, I want to do the Akira slide if I can. That's way cool. So, so fun to see. The last one for me, it's a huge sequence, but you know, it's kind of towards the end where he's just kind of like taking over and he becomes this big, huge blob. But like, there's a part where he turns his arm into like the mechanical arm, like, you know, gets all these pieces.
Cool.
Right? Like it looks so rad. And then there's a sequence where he kind of like shoots it out, you know, and just like it just extends for so long. I was like, man, these visuals are so rad. Like this thing is just so powerful and is taking over. And it's just kind of unstoppable. I mean, they're bringing in like literal military grade things to try to take it out, and nothing is working at all. But like we're seeing all these explosions and all the destruction and everything that's happening. But just Tetsuo, when he's like Akira, like kind of evolving into this big blob and this big enormous thing, was just like such a cool visual. So that's my final true cinema moment.
The moment where he sits on that throne and his arm like cables and like connects to the throne, and he's like, I can't control this anymore. I was like, oh damn, dude, that's wild. Like your body is growing on its own. It's super sick. My third true cinema moment is the sewer tunnel shootout. So when they're kind of like trying to sneak in and they get busted in the sewer tunnels. Number one, Neo Tokyo is super badass for having helicopters in their sewers. Very cool. Number two, that's insane that they have to have helicopter security in their sewers. I guess a lot of people, I mean, obviously they're protecting Akira, so I get it. You want to, protect at all costs, but to have that shootout in there was really cool. And, initially just like, they just like obliterate someone. And I think a lot of these sequences that end up becoming big battles start with someone or some people just getting absolutely fucked. And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Like with the laser beams, someone just gets like split in half all of a sudden. So yeah, I really liked that sequence. I thought it was a nice juxtaposition to having such an open city, and especially to like the final act and the final like big kind of evolution and battle. It takes place on, you know, a massive stage and essentially in a dreamscape, and where there's like no real space. So to have something take place in a really small and constrained, you know, physical location, I thought worked really well. They hijack a helicopter, and it's pretty sick. I just thought it was something really cool.
That move was rad. Yeah, these like what, helicopter jet skis or something like that. Like they're of like crazy one person things. But yeah, Kaneda like kind of jumping on one of them and just like taking over, and just like, I don't know where the brakes are. Their whole like, you know, experience trying to figure that stuff out was kind of cool. I enjoyed some of the not necessarily backstory, but some of the side story that we got of like them being in that boys' school and being questioned by the cops. Like, so there was a lot of stuff. Like it went a lot deeper than I thought it was, than it would. And I like that move too, where Kaneda's like, "Oh yeah, she was with us too. She's our friend, you know, like with us." And then she just kind of calls him out on like, "Oh, you just like chasing skirts. Like you just thought I'd be like whatever." I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of cool that like they just." She doesn't just necessarily become the love interest. And even he later on is like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm her boyfriend, but I'm pretty close." She's like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, that's not the case at all." But
he immediately gets questioned if he's a spy 3 different times right after that. So wrong choice of words to say that he was her boyfriend.
Very wrong choice. Yeah, for sure.
I have a question for you. So obviously living in 2023 and me being the movie connoisseur that I am, watched this movie and I was like, "Oh man, live action. That'd be kind of cool." And so I went and did some Googling. Have you Googled this yet?
No. Did they make one?
No. So there is rumors that an Akira live action is going to be happening.
Oh yeah.
It was approved a few years ago. Of course, hasn't taken off since then. The most recent article or piece of news that I can find is from April, so it is like 5 months old. But just the headline, I didn't read the whole thing, but the headline that I read, I don't know if I want to say it out loud because I just don't like it a lot at all. It says, of course, I think a live action would be cool. It says that Taika Waititi is penned to make the script, and I gotta be honest with you, not a fan. So what do you think of that? What's your take? I feel like you like Waititi more than I do.
I like Waititi a lot, and I don't know that he's right for this. Like, if you had asked me about this after Ragnarok, I'd be like, "Cool, let's go for it."
Sure.
But this is after Love and Thunder, and I was like, I don't know that we should go for it. Like, I think today, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but he's been removed off the Star Wars project. Like, they're not doing that anymore. Is that right? I don't know if that's accurate or not.
That is what I heard, and I heard that Next Goal Wins premiered at TIFF, and it just did terribly. People did not like it at all. I heard it was a very bad movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I like him. I liked Boy quite a bit. I love Eagle versus Shark. Like, I enjoy his stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily tie him into this kind of a story, you know?
Why can't we get Jordan Peele to do Akira? Like, what, like, he loves it. Get somebody who loves it. I guess that's my take on, like, doing a live action or getting someone to pen a script. Just make sure they love it, and then we're good to go. Like, don't just try to be like, "Oh, they're the name right now. Like, let's get them to do this." Because then, of course, like this, it's going to fizzle, and years are going to go by, and then nothing is going to amount because they don't care.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like an uphill battle either way to make the live version of this. I would be there to see it regardless, you know? Yeah. But I mean, there's something about the charm of the 88 anime, like, style, and trying to replicate that seems difficult. But I had the same thought. It's like, has they ever tried to make a live action of this? Because, like, it would be interesting. I mean, they did Ghost in the Shell, you know? So I guess, like...
Which I guess we were interested in, but not interested enough to watch it. Because I never went around to it.
Just keep ScarJo away from Akira. Like, she doesn't need to be doing this at all. But I'm curious who would be a good director. I mean, Jordan Peele, like you said, I'm sure would be great. But
I think Jordan Peele would be cool. I think he could really obviously modernize it. I think there's a lot of big themes in here where you have to get someone. I'm not saying that Taika's not smart, but he's not smart enough, I think, for this kind of a script. So you have to get someone that's really ready to pen down a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I think that'd be, I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting to see.
Okay, we do have some bonus time, even though this is a great movie. Technical difficulties throw us off a little bit, and we lost the mojo. So we have a few extra minutes here. I was going to ask you, before we started talking about the movie, we are just a couple of weeks away from the creator. I know the final trailer for the movie dropped a couple of weeks ago. Can you fill me in? What have you seen about the creator? Are you watching all the trailers? Are you following all the promos? Where are you at with this?
I mean, I'm just excited for it. I think I've seen 2 trailers, something like that. Like
okay.
I think we were both sold after that first one. I was like, I have no idea what it's going to be, but yeah, I'm excited about it. Where are you at on it?
No, I'm very excited. I think I've only seen one trailer. I saw the first trailer. Excuse me. I saw the first trailer in IMAX, and that was like when that trailer started playing. I think it was like a couple months ago now, where it was like in front of a big movie or something, and we had just gotten it, and I was like, wow, that movie looks sick. I think they've put out 4 or maybe 5 trailers. I have not watched any additional trailers. I don't want to reveal too much. I feel like the first trailer is premium content in terms of like, that's what I need to know. Cool, I'm sold. Like, I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to see any other cool set pieces. I'm pretty good. And I know they've been doing some viral marketing with like people at sports games having like creator heads, which is pretty cool, but I've been staying pretty distant from that as well. Like I just, it's a movie that I feel like I want to respect. And so I don't want to dive too far before I see it.
I know we both love Rogue One. Did you see his Godzilla movie?
I don't know if I did.
I don't remember.
I think I've only seen Godzilla versus Kong. That's the only one I've ever seen.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we both love Rogue One, so I'm very curious about this.
Oh, I adore Rogue One. Absolutely. So good. I think it'll be good. Okay, would this fit in the A24 catalog? Maybe.
I think it would.
Pretty positive about it.
Yeah, I think this could totally fit in there. I think budget-wise, that even makes sense, but even just the story in its own, the medium, I think it'd be cool to see an A24 anime. And the storyline is just like, it feels like it fits in, where it's like we kind of think we're getting one thing and then something else completely different happens. So I say without a doubt, this could totally fit in there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that front. I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when we did Ghost in the Shell. I would love to get an A24 anime. I'm curious if that's on their board at all. Obviously, we're getting a musical here in a couple of weeks, and that's their very first musical. So we will see if they have their eyes out for anime at all. Next week on the Patreon pod, we're talking about Lone Wolf and Cub. This is going to be the final movie before we do watch the creator, and then we're going to start another series. Do you want to give a hint, Ben? Because I feel like I kind of want to give a hint, honestly.
Let's do it. Go for it.
Okay. Obviously, we both know, and lots of people in the know that we've got some big names releasing movies this fall. They've been playing at festivals. We've got Scorsese. We've got Fincher. We've got Michael Mann. We've got some very, prominent filmmakers coming out with movies. Richard Linklater is in the mix. So we're planning to, do a little deep dive into some of their filmographies and watch some really, really good shit. So I'm really excited.
That's going to be good. I'm excited too. We got our Scorsese draft too on the regular pod. So let us know what you guys thought about Akira. We're on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you so much for your support as patrons. We really appreciate it. It means everything to us. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Canada! That was pretty good. I feel like that was a really good scream.
That was solid.